And welcome back, fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and this is our match preview, part of the 2025 Pacific Nations Cup between number 18 United States taking on number 13 Japan, happening Saturday, September 6th, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time kickoff in Heart Health Park in Sacramento, California. Again, you can watch this match and all the matches in the Pacific Nations Cup and in the Rugby Women's Cup, Women's World Cup, through Paramount Plus. Again, guys, I'm not being told by Paramount Plus to do this. I'm not being paid by that. I wish I was, but it's such a great deal, Paramount Plus, right now. For your first 2 months, 99 cents each month. If you subscribe now, you can watch all of the Pacific Nations Cup. You can watch all of the Women's Rugby World Cup, and then you can cancel, and you've only paid $1. But why wouldn't you want to continue? Because again, it's not a bad deal. I believe it's $13.99 or $12.99 per month. In 2026, if you haven't heard, if you're a UFC fan, all the UFC pay-per-views are no longer there. The big events are going to be on Paramount Plus. A lot of great content on Paramount Plus, not only rugby, but a lot of great content. It is so worth it, in my opinion. And again, you can watch all the matches in the 2025 Pacific Nations Cup, live or on demand. Definitely recommend to watch this one in Japan, because this is going to be a big one for Japan. And again, so much riding on the line. Most importantly, Rugby World Cup qualifications for the 2027 Men's Rugby World Cup for the United States. This game is going to be very, very important to determine the destiny for the USA men. And we'll go into that in just a second. Obviously, we do have to do a little bit of recap of how we got here. First of all, unfortunately, USA men falling to Canada in the first match of the Pool B division, which USA, Japan, and Canada are part of in this Pacific Nations Cup. USA falling to Canada 34-20. Heartbreaker of a match with a lot of errors by the United States. First and foremost is the lineout. The lineout play, unfortunately, was horrible. At least I counted like 6 lineout errors. I think they only made 1 successful lineout in the very first half, and then the woes continued in the second half as well. Also, too, for Canada, Tyler Arjon. If you haven't heard of him, he hasn't played for Canada since 2021. This is his first game back in nearly 4 years. How does he do it? He kicks off with a hat trick in the first, I think it was in the first 20 minutes. Arjon scores a hat trick to keep Canada on the board. Fortunately, the United States were able to score a try before the end of the first half. A beautiful kick pass to Rufus McLean, who's actually had a very good Eagles career. I believe Rufus McLean, he's only has 2 caps under his belt, and yet he's been very, very good. First try for his international career. Halftime score 17-7. Unfortunately, in the second half, lineout errors continue. Arjon scores a 4th try, and then the dagger in the hearts of the United States was when, unfortunately, Eric Storty mistimed a kick. Peter Nelson, who has been phenomenal for Canada as well, off of the tee, he does a little footy trick after the missed catch of the ball by Eric Storty, knocks it into the try zone, scores the try. Peter Nelson, off the tee with the try, scored 14 points in this game. 14 of the 34 points for this game. The other 20 points were scored by Tyler Arjon. And that was it for the United States, 34-20. An unfortunate loss for the United States, though they're not out of it yet, because in the very next game, Japan took on Canada. That game started off pretty even, but then Japan just unloaded on Canada. Again, you can watch that match on Paramount Plus. 6 unanswered tries until the very end, and Japan beats Canada 57-15. Open up a little bit of a doorway for the United States to possibly make it into the playoff rounds of this competition. Basically, the top 2 teams in each pool, if you're not familiar, in Pool A and Pool B composed of Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga. The top 2 teams in each pool play off against each other in a 4-team playoff match. the bottom two teams, this is the important part, the bottom two teams of each pool play off against each other. Now, the way that the Rugby World Cup qualifications work, the top 5 teams in this Pacific Nations Cup go into the qualification for the Rugby World Cup. The top 5. So there's 6 teams. If you're not the last place team, you are automatically qualified for the Rugby World Cup. If the United States finish last in this pool, which right now that's where they're sitting, they will have to play the last place team in Pool A, which looks to be like it's going to be Samoa. Samoa has to play against Fiji in their last game, and Fiji's looking like world beaters, so it's probably going to be Samoa. And if USA does not beat Samoa or whoever's the last place team, unfortunately, the United States will not qualify for the Rugby World Cup yet. They then have to go into a playoff game with the bottom place team in the South American competition, which they're still determining who that is. I believe they play 2 games in that one, and it's an aggregate score. If the United States don't win that one, they have one last try to make it into the Rugby World Cup. They'll be in the last chance repechage competition, where the 4 last chance repechage teams play against each other in a pool. Belize is in it. Belgium is in it. And I don't remember the other 3, but Belgium is one of them. And the United States will have to play each of those, and whoever has the most points at the end of that competition finally gets the last place in the Rugby World Cup. So, hopes are not out yet for the United States, but if the United States don't finish last in this competition with the Pacific Nations, they have a lot of work to do to try to qualify for the Rugby World Cup, which is super important for the United States because, for those of you who don't know, we did not qualify for the prior Rugby World Cup. We desperately need to qualify for this one. So, with that being said, let's pull up the lineup for your United States men. If you're familiar with what the lineup was against Canada, this is an almost entirely different team. Head coach Scott Lawrence pretty much gutted the forward and the backs in this. The forwards, the front half of the team, the backs are almost entirely the same. So, with the exception of the hooker, Capelli Pifoletti, which kind of tells you a lot of the mindset of why the lineouts didn't work. But you have Ezekiel Lindenmuth and Caleb Geiger now as your props. Mario Relingas also stays. Jason Dom, though, is now, who just came back for the Canada game off of injury reserve, now is going to be captain because Benjamin Bonasso is not playing in this game. Paddy Ryan will be joining them as the other Paddy Ryan will be joining in as flanker, but he will also be joining in as a person who was part of the injury reserve squad. So fortunately, he's been able to get over whatever was his injuries was. His abilities will definitely help the USA team. And then a move that I feel is a great move because I'm a big fan of him, Christian Prince Poidevet, who's been phenomenal ever since he's been finally given a chance to suit up as a USA Eagles. He gets, I believe this will be his very first start as a USA Eagle. Only 3 caps under him, but he will be at the flanker, the open side flanker at the number 7. Makin Ali Khan gets the start again at number 8. He's been phenomenal. Has been playing for the Anthem Rugby Carolina MLR team. He has really been good with only 3 caps under his belt. Now, this is interesting. Fly half and scrum half completely changed. Ruben De Haas gets the start at your scrum half. Fly half, interesting enough, veteran AJ McGinty, not in the roster at all. Don't know if he's been hurt. Tends to get hurt quite a bit, or if this is just the way that head coach Scott Lawrence decided to do it. But Chris Hilsenbeck will get the start. This is only going to be his 2nd match ever as a USA Eagle. His first was against England, if you remember that really tough match right before the Pacific Nations. But interesting that head coach Scott Lawrence is giving the young Hilsenbeck, who was phenomenal Major League Rugby as a rookie of the year. I'll be the first to say it, but interesting that he is going to get the start. Also, too, coming back in the lineup, Toby Fricker, who I'm a big fan of, getting that left side winger. And then Tavita Lopetti, Don Bissag, and Rufus McLean all were starters for the wingers, and Eric Storty at fullback. So again, your backs are pretty much the same. Everything else almost entirely different. So very, very interesting. Also should be noted, Luke Carty coming back into the Eagles lineup. He hasn't been playing for the Eagles. He's been suffering from some injuries as well, coming off the injury reserve, but I believe this is his first time suiting up as an Eagle in 2025. So it's great to see him. I've always been a fan of Luke Carty. Good to see his experience, but he'll have to be coming off the bench. And Mitchie Wilson will also be making an appearance off of the bench as well. So some very talented people on the bench, but a very interesting lineup. I'm not going to go too much into detail of the Brave Blossoms lineup, but I will point out of a couple people that you should definitely be aware of. Their lineup very similar to the lineup that showed up against Canada. And in that game against Canada, as I mentioned before, started off pretty even, and then Japan just ran away with it. I believe that will be the strategy that Eddie Jones will have, head coach for the Brave Blossoms, will have in this game. Basically, keep at pace with the United States in the first half, and then just turn on the afterburners. The Brave Blossom strategy has always been about fast, hard-hitting rugby, outpace your opponents, and if the USA are not conditioned for this, the Brave Blossoms are going to do to them what they did to Canada as well. As I mentioned, in the second half, 6 unanswered tries. Japan just ran away with the competition. But some people that you should watch out for, one of the changes that Eddie Jones made was bringing in Tomoki Osada off of the bench on the winger. I love Osada. Plays for those Saitama Wild Knights, one of the hardest hitting players for a guy his size. He is going to be exciting to watch. And then, of course, names that I've mentioned before, Warner Durns, who's the captain, a New Zealander who's grown up in Japan since he was 12, plays for the Brave Lupus. He's usually the captain for the Brave Blossoms when Michael Leach, their captains for at least the last decade or so, isn't playing. Warner Durns is the guy that steps up as the captain. Another guy to look out for, Dylan Riley, talented South African who's been making a mark as a youngster for the Brave Blossoms. He has the most caps for the Brave Blossom, for this iteration of the Brave Blossom, which is a surprisingly young squad for this Pacific Nations tournament. But I believe that's Eddie Jones. What Eddie Jones wants to do is he wants to give a lot of the younger players a chance to play at a pretty competitive international level. Dylan Riley is one of those young players that has really stood up in these last couple of games. And then a guy that I didn't know too much of, Charlie Lawrence. He plays for one of the coolest teams you can ever find a name for, the Dynabors. A team in Tokyo for the Japan 1 Pro League. He is actually from Hong Kong, and he's only has a couple of caps as a Brave Blossom, but he was pretty good and has some great kicking ability for the Brave Blossoms during the Canada game. And then, of course, a guy that I've been mentioning a lot, he's been getting a lot of buzz simply because of Eddie Jones's love for him, Kipe Shida. Eddie Jones, if you don't know, he compares Kipe Ishida to a young Colby Cheslin Colby, who is a phenomenal South African player, legendary. And, I mean, Kipe Ishida, he's really dynamic. When you see him get the ball, he is so explosive, so fast. Also played some really great defense. He prevented a try from scoring in the Canada match, and then he scored 2 tries in the Canada match as well. So you got to keep an eye out for Kipe Ishida. And then Sung-Sun Lee, the Korean Japanese national player, he's been basically the fly half for the Brave Blossoms for at least the last 5 or so years. Dynamic off of the tee. He just scored 17 points in the Canada game, 8 out of 9 off the tee. So you know that if he'll keep United States honest, if USA commits any penalties, Sung-Sun Lee can kick it off the tee. And with those 17 points, he just cracked the top 10 most points scored by a Brave Blossoms national player with 170 points. So Sung-Sun Lee starting to make a mark in the history books for the Brave Blossoms. But those are some dynamic players that you're going to have to watch out for in this game. As I mentioned before, United States not out of it yet. They have to win this game. They have to get a bonus point, and they got to win by at least 15 points. That's the only way that they can knock out Canada into that third place spot. It's not impossible. It's going to be very, very challenging, especially the way that the Brave Blossom played against Canada. They, like I mentioned before, they are cardiac kids willing to run. The United States are going to have to keep up the pace with them. In the history of the United States taking on Japan, they played against each other 25 times. The United States has won 13 of them, lost 11, drew with 1. The last time that they played, Japan beat the United States 41-24 in last year's version of the Pacific Nations Cup. Interestingly enough, both teams, only 9 players on each squad played in that prior game. So these are practically brand new teams playing against each other. So anything can happen in the match. But like I said, the United States are definitely going to have to play a fast-paced, hard-hitting. They can't let Japan control the game because that's what Canada did. And unfortunately, Canada just fell apart as Japan just started putting on the points. And they will put on the points if you let them. So again, United States not quite out of this yet. The Heart Health Park is a big stadium. I just did some research on it, 12,000 seaters. So hopefully we can fill that up with USA fans. That will give the United States a lot of support. Again, if you can't watch the game live, Paramount Plus, watch it on demand. I was originally going to do a watch-along, but unfortunately real life kind of came in the way, so I won't be doing that. But I implore you, if you have Paramount Plus or if you're thinking about it, get it so you can watch this match. It's a win or go home for the United States. They got to win this to stay in the top 2 of the Pool B competition. Again, if they don't win, it's not over yet, but they'll have to play Samoa, and they have to win that game. Otherwise, they're not going to qualify immediately for the Rugby World Cup, and it gets a lot harder from there. So again, support the team, support USA, watch it Saturday, September 6th, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time kickoff. Enjoy the match, and again, thank you very much for watching my video, and I'll see you on the pitch. Go USA!